Pausing to make sure everything goes according to plan because who never knows anymore. Looks like we're okay now. Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Dylan Knows. It's episode 648, waiting on the March Lion. It is February 28th, 11:15 Saturday. I said that because of the old axiom from March: in like a lion, out like a lamb. March 1st is tomorrow. So we're in the third month of the year. In like a lion, out like a lamb, I guess means weather or whatever. So we'll find out what actually means. Right now, temperature was a nice 60 degrees today. It's going to drop for the next 2 days. Possible snow issues, but it'll probably be a lot like last week's snow issues we'll talk about in the show. And then it's going to get into the 60s and then the 70s by next weekend. This upcoming week also has my wife's birthday is on Tuesday. And I think both my son and wife are going away this upcoming weekend. So that's going to be awesome. Don't quote me on it, though, but I think they are. I think it will because Noah, my son, they talked about what they're going to be doing next weekend. So I believe that he'll be there for that. So that'll be awesome. Went to see the Back to the Future musical with my daughter. First time I saw her since Valentine's Day. It was an awesome show. I'll talk a little bit more about that. There's a lot of shitty stuff going on in the world right now. I'll see if I decide to do that or not. I was in a mood this morning when I started writing this up, but I might change my mind because it's getting late and I'm tired and I really don't want to talk about too much. But there's one or two things I'll probably talk about. A parental conundrum showed its face this week, actually twice. One not too bad, and one, they both weren't too bad, but just interesting little conundrums I had. Some deaths, some anniversaries, some new news, some new drinks, some new food, a brand new St. Patrick's Day drink, which I am dying to try. It'll be available on Monday at Sonic, and there is a Sonic near me at work. So I might have to swing by there one day and grab it between now and St. Patrick's Day, which will be coming up in March. It's also birthday month for my family. My wife on Tuesday. My nephews, the twins, I think they're the 12th of March. My father-in-law is the 22nd of March. My sister is the 27th of March. Baseball season starts also on the 27th of March, I believe, or the 28th or the 26th, one of those days. We turn our clocks ahead next Sunday. So when I do the show next week, we'll be losing an hour while I'm doing the show. So that'll go. Well, I'll be doing the show around this time probably. And then by the time I finish, I like to settle down a little bit and stay upstairs. I'll probably stay upstairs till like 2 o'clock and then I'll jump to 3 o'clock. We'll see how that goes. That's next weekend when it's going to be in the 70s for temperature wise. St. Patrick's Day, of course. First day of spring is coming up as well. And Palm Sunday is the last Sunday of March. So that would be, that can't be right. Well, no, that could be right because that would be the 29th of, because February is only 28 days. March is 31. So the 29th of March will be Palm Sunday. So we got a lot of stuff coming up here. So we'll see how that goes. As I said, temperatures are going to be crazy. Let me see if they changed them up lately. Oh, the Oscars are coming up March very soon too. We have a Friday the 13th coming up tonight. I think it's too late now. I think you had to see it at sunset. The planets were aligned. There is a total lunar eclipse coming this week, but I'll talk about that too later. It's currently 42 degrees right now, so it's to be 44 tomorrow, 35 Monday, 45 Tuesday, 59 Wednesday, 68 Thursday, 68 Friday, 76 on Saturday, 68 Sunday, 68 next Monday. So we got a little bit of a warm-up coming here very soon. My wife is currently doing a lock-in with her scout troop at the church. Noah did his last week. They also had their blue and gold dinner, which is when the Cub Scouts who can bridge over now, I guess the Webelos now, who can bridge over to the Scouts, they do their bridging, plus it's their little dinner that they have, which is really kind of neat. So It's also Pokemon Go Fest next day, today and tomorrow. Busy weekend, and we are, as I said, entering into March. So let's get right to it here. I talked about this. I forgot to put the date down. I think it's May 29th. Let me check that. I got to check something real quick. Yep. I think I talked about this a week or so ago. The back rooms. We finally got our first trailer, but it's only a teaser trailer. And it just shows the different levels of the back rooms with Chiwetel Ejiofor talking about it to the female lead as he narrates over it. And it gives you, it's really interesting. A24 is going truly minimalist with everything so far, which is what the back rooms is basically about. So I think it's genius marketing. The poster that they debuted this week also is just of the really bad yellow sort of wallpaper at the bottom, and white writing was A24 back rooms, May 29th, 2028. And then the trailer was just, as I said, just the different levels of it with Chiwetel Ejiofor talking about it. And then that was it. So a very minimalist sort of thing. I think it's a really good idea that they did that. Joe Morton and Mike Coulter are set to team up for the law drama Cupertino, and Busy Phillips has also joined the cast as well. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about any of this stuff. So I was going to lose my mind about the stuff that's going on in the world, but it's really not worth it right now. I am going to talk about one thing, though. Netflix and Paramount have been in a battle to get to buy Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers decided they wanted Netflix's to be the one to buy Warner Brothers. The film geeks and nerds and dorks went online and said what a terrible, terrible thing is going to be. Netflix is going to be destroying the film industry. Even after they came out and said we're reducing theatrical times from the 45 days to 30 days, which will allow for more movies to be seen, but they don't care about that. They just hear, oh, you're dropping 15 days in a movie schedule. They're saying every Warner Bros. Movie was going to go direct to streaming, which was not true. They said that they weren't going to do that. I went into much detail about why Netflix does the streaming, why they don't show their original movies in movie theaters, to get people to come to buy the streaming service, and they can throw a little something in there as a way to get their attention to it. And you want to see the film, you have to get the streaming service. There's going to be no physical video DVDs or Blu-rays of it. Well, yeah, as I said, again, their original movies and TV shows, they want you to come to the streaming service to get it. They're not just going to release physical stuff willy-nilly. The other streamers don't do that. They do it as well. Peacock, Paramount, Apple TV Plus, they don't offer very much in physical copies of stuff as well. However, Netflix came out this week and said that they're going to be releasing K-pop Demon Hunters and the Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein movie into the Criterion Collection Blu-ray. So you're going to be getting physical copies of that. So again, all you film geeks and nerds and losers screaming that Netflix is going to destroy the film industry, you really aren't paying attention. But it doesn't matter, because Paramount, because they're run by a right-wing guy put in place by the convict and pedophile in charge, and Russia, and it's the one who people have forgotten is fired Stephen Colbert for no reason, and everyone was freaking out about that. But now they were all like, Netflix is a terrible idea. Paramount, because they're run by people who like to sexually abuse women and rape women and don't take no for an answer and force themselves on it, kept forcing themselves on the WB even after the WB and Netflix came to an agreement. It got to be so bad that this week Paramount raised their offer humongously, and it was just too rich for Netflix's blood, and the WB decided to go with Paramount's offer now. So even after they had a deal set with Netflix, even though it hadn't been ratified or voted on, that wasn't going to happen until April 20th, or rather, excuse me, March 20th. They decided to go with Paramount because they were going to be getting more money. And so that means that the pedo in charge and the right-wing Nazi fascists will now have control of CNN and other networks, stuff like that, and are building a huge, massive media conglomerate. And again, the film nerds and geeks and people who were against Netflix were screaming, Netflix shouldn't have all these stuff together, shouldn't have, Warner Brothers and all this other stuff combined. And now they're not even saying a peep about Paramount having all that shit as well, which made me absolutely livid. So CNN is now going to turn to Fox News Light. Warner Brothers is only going to release movies that the pedo himself will approve of. So we'll see what that means for Superman, who was an anti-Nazi thing, if that's even going to continue to linger. You're not going to see any movies like Sinners anymore, because why would they want black people in their movies? Because they're racist pieces of shit. You're going to see more religious right-wing bullshit from Warner Brothers and Paramount and HBO Max and stuff like that. They're going to cancel anything that has the hint of DEI, which is absolutely ridiculous anyway. So it's a real big shit show. But don't feel too bad for Netflix, because they had made a deal with Paramount. There was a buyout clause, and Warner Brothers has to pay them $2.8 billion, which they've done already. So Netflix now has $2.8 billion to do with what they want to. So they can make more movies, they can build stuff. We'll see what happens, see what they do with it. And at the same time, when Skybound bought Paramount, Skybound was in dire straits when it came to financial things, and they were trying to swoop in to save Paramount, who was in financial setbacks. So now both of them are in massive debt right now, and now buying Netflix buying the WB for overpriced, buying it at overpriced, overinflated money, and they have issues with having problems with the money as well. It's going to have just this big, massive amount of debt that eventually is going to have to be called forward, and Paramount's going to figure out what they're going to do, which means that they're probably going to sell off the WB and HBO and stuff like that, and Netflix can pick up all that stuff for pennies on the dollar. So blue line for that, but still it sucks, because now the right-wing Nazi pedo-loving ass fuckers are now in control of a lot of state media right now. Just a real quick rundown of what I was going to talk about, but I'm going to do it. They attacked Iran unprovoked without talking to Congress, which is illegal, but no one gives a fuck anymore. Kentucky, I guess, or a shitty state out in the West, is fucking over trans people by saying they have to have what they were born as and not who they transitioned into on their license, which is a bunch of bullshit. The pedo in charge has written an executive, or he didn't, but his crony in charge wrote an executive order talking about how they're going to steal the elections from us. And then all the people online say, he can't do that. We have all these things set in place. Yeah. Who's going to stop him? Nobody stopped him so far. So you guys are just way underreacting to this. You're thinking everything is going to go smoothly, stuff like that. We're totally fucked. But I'm not going to get into that right now because I really don't want to get too depressing. I'm going to move on. It's weird. It was happening for a while. It's fluctuating between 3 to 4 people watching. Now there's 0, so we'll see if they're still around. We're going to switch gears now. From I was going to lose my mind, but I lost my mind earlier this week, and I've just don't have the desire anymore to lose my shit anymore. Nothing's going to happen. There's no reason for me to complain because no one watches this goddamn show except for the one person up there who's watching it now. I don't have an influence on anything, which is fine with me. I don't care. I do this show because I like to do this show, and I appreciate everybody who watches this show. So thank you. And you just left, so thanks a lot for that too. But thank you for watching, and also the 2 or 3 people that fluctuate in and out. We'll see if that continues. But I'm just tired. I'm tired of everything. Nothing's going to change. There's only one way out of this, and nobody wants to be the one to do it because it's bad. It's bad. That's all I'm going to say about that, because I really don't feel like into it. I've expended all my energy on this earlier this week, and I'm done. I'm tired. I want to get moving, and I got other things I can talk about that are more interesting than this. I'm going to talk about a parental conundrum, which I found kind of interesting this week. My son, because he is a good person, he's empathetic, he looks out for others, likes to be helpful, likes to help people. He's a goddamn scout, for God's sakes. He's just overall just a decent human being, and I'm not just saying that because he's my son. He just is. He's a good kid. And he's, as I said, very empathetic. We have kids with Down syndrome and mental issues that are in the scout troop, and my son makes sure that they're taken care of and that they are not left out of the stuff that the scouts do, and make sure that everybody hangs out with them, and it works for the most part. Just setting up some stuff. So they have devices they use in their school. They have the same device for 4 years. And then once they graduate, they give it back, and then they delete everything on there and give it to the freshmen coming in after they leave. And it comes with a charger, obviously, because, laptops have chargers. My son lent his charger to somebody who asked him, "Hey, can I borrow your charger?" I don't know if you knew him that well. He's in one of his classes, I was assuming. And so nice enough, he gave him the charger. And he never saw it again. And he only sees this person it's like on their B days, I guess. And the next B day was 2 days after he never got the charger back, and the person wasn't there. That's what he tells us. And then 2 more days pass. He still cannot get the charger from this person. So I don't know if he talked to him or just didn't want to deal with confrontation because he wasn't very good at confrontation. So he went to the library to get a new charger because he needs one. And they gave it to him for free, which is a surprise. We thought they were going to charge us because they've charged us for everything else. His friend, who I guess knows this guy and who knows what's going on because my son told him about it, was able to get his charger from this guy. So that's the whole story. But my conundrum came in a couple days before he got his charger back from his friend, and he was contemplating going to the library to get a new one. And my wife and I both weren't sure how to approach this because he was doing this, hi Pepper, out of the kindness of his heart because he's a good person. He's a good kid. And he's just generally just a wonderful human being. And he was doing something nice for somebody who needed help because that's who he is. And this kid took advantage of him. So my wife and I, what are you doing? My wife and I had to sit him down and say to him, sometimes you just can't be nice. And that's where the conundrum comes in, because you want them to be nice. You want them to, what are you doing? You want them to be nice. You want them to help other people, but you don't want them to get taken advantage of. And that was what was happening to him. And we were just like, you can't always help people. You shouldn't always help people, even though you really want to, because you don't, and the same time, like, you don't know, am I going to get it back? I mean, how do you guarantee you get it back? I mean, if you don't like confrontations, it's kind of hard to look at you. There you are. You're a handsome man. We just had to tell him sometimes you have to be a jerk. You have to say, no, I can't let you borrow my charger, even though you really, really, really want him to really help somebody and really want to help them. You're showing your butt off to everybody. Nobody wants to see that. Come on. Mm. Mm. So that was where the conundrum comes in, because we want him to be kind, we want him to be good, we want him to help people, but we also don't want him to get taken advantage of. And so we just say, if someone asks you if they can borrow your charger, even if it's someone, well, obviously if it's someone you probably know, you probably will be able to get the charger back better than you would be from someone maybe you don't know quite as well. Like if he lent it to his friend, I'm sure his friend would have given it to him because he got it back for him. But still, we had the conundrum of we have to tell him that sometimes you can't be a good person because we're afraid that you're going to be taken advantage of. So that was the conundrum there. And then the other one was I went to see the Back to the Future musical with my daughter, who's at college, and I was trying to set up a time to meet with her, and if she wanted me to pick her up on Friday to bring her home, have her spend the night here, and then we would leave from here to go to the theater, or if I should pick her up from her dorm the day of the show, and take her from there. In the end, she was going to go back to her dorm anyway, either after the show, so it wouldn't matter either way, just of her spending the night here Friday or me picking her up on Saturday. So I text her all this, and she really doesn't communicate much nowadays via text. So I gave her all these options, said, you make the choice. And she's like, I'm fine with whatever you decide. And I was like, no, that's not my decision. It's your decision. Do you have plans? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel like you need to come? I don't know. And that's the funny thing about it is she just said, I don't care what whatever, we can do whatever. And that wasn't the question I asked. Like, you have to sometimes make a decision. And so eventually she did. She said, yes, she and her friends were going to go to Ellicott City yesterday in the evening. So she wasn't going to be able to spend the night. But that was after I had texted her and said, all right, do you want me to pick you up or not? Do you have plans or not, sort of thing. You have to make the decision. So that was the conundrum with that. Not really a conundrum with that, just more of a, what are you doing to me, kid? So speaking of that, we went to see Back to the Future. Did not know that the book was written by, for the musical, was written by Bob Gale, who co-wrote the movie with Robert Zemeckis. That was really cool. And that the music was written by Alan Silvestri, who did the score for Back to the Future, with lyrics by Glenn Ballard, who worked with Alanis Morissette and Toad the Wet Sprocket. And, oh, sorry, Pat. So that was kind of cool. So I also had no idea how they were going to do all the stuff that was had done in the movies. So what you got, unfortunately, the only real, it was awesome. It was awesome musical. There was really the only thing I really didn't like about it was there was really no like memorable song, like no Defying Gravity or anything like that. It was decent music, but just nothing, no real songs that really sang out to you or were outstanding. The song that ended the first half of the play, first act of the play was good, the showstopper. And then 21st Century was a weird one, and brought us back into the second half of the show, the second act. But what they had to do is they had to minimize and reduce the storyline to the beats you wanted to get, and you get all the information you kind of need, but you don't have the story about George wrecking the family car before he goes up to his weekend with his girlfriend. The weekend with his girlfriend was not even a plot point in the story. The car accident wasn't a plot point in the story either. Um, and the playing the amp really it happened, but it was a little bit different than it was in the movie, obviously. And then the reveal of the DeLorean, you could not have a dog on stage because they didn't want to train a dog. So there was no Einstein. So Doc was the one who first went back into time, went to test the DeLorean. And then there was no Libyan terrorists. He just stole the plutonium, and there was like no problems with that. And how they affected him was they had his radiation suit get torn so that the radiation poisoning got into him. That's how he was going to die. And Marty was going to jump into the DeLorean, go to the hospital to get him to the hospital to get a doctor or whatever. And then he sped 88 miles an hour and went to the future or went to the past. They also made the DeLorean be voice activated by Doc only, which really was a minor plot point and had a small little payoff near the end. But it was because you couldn't show them typing in the stuff from the stage because it's so far up there and it wouldn't look good. So they had to figure out a different way to do that. When Marty goes back to the past, he does run into the double tree, the pine trees, and runs into a barn, but the farmer does not come out and shoot at him because he's not wearing a protective suit. Doc was the only one wearing that. They just had Marty stepping away when he put the plutonium in the DeLorean. So he just kept the DeLorean in the barn and then walked into town. And then George, I guess it was, you couldn't have the actress Lorraine be in her underwear and stuff like that, but you can make the assumption that he was spying on her. And instead of being hit by a car, the branch George was on broke and landed on top of Marty. And that drew the attention of Lorraine's dad. So Lorraine's dad did not hit him with a car. There was what else was there? The scene of the skateboard chase where Biff and all them are chasing Marty around the town square. He's on the skateboard, and they're all in the car. Couldn't do that on stage, so they made that confrontation take place in the cafeteria / across the school, and had George help out, try to protect him, which was an interesting take on things as well. And you had him do the density speech at the cafeteria also. Goldie Wilson had a little bit bigger role, had a couple of songs that he sang as well. The Starlighter Band was only 2 people. And the way that the main musician hurt his hand was by freeing Marty from a dumpster. They didn't throw him into the back of the car. They threw him in a dumpster, and so that hurt his hand. So that's how Marty had to got involved with playing the guitar. What else was there that was missing? There was just a bunch of other stuff. They just had to compress things and make things go a little faster. And it works for the most part. It does a good job. Some of the characterizations were a little off for me, but the main cast was pretty much straightforward Back to the Future actors, which you expected. Sort of the minor roles were kind of just a little off kilter a little bit for me. So the music was fine, and it was really good special effects, some really good lighting effects, and you could hear them mostly pretty clearly. There's some songs that the dialogue got slurred a little bit, so I couldn't hear them. It was just too loud, and I couldn't understand what they were saying. They did have a real DeLorean on stage-ish. I don't know exactly how it worked, but the way they had it speeding, they used sort of film tricks where they actually had it like on a circle that moved it around the stage, and then they showed the background was moving while everybody, to make it look like he was going fast. There was all kinds of like media stuff that showed it going up to 88 miles an hour, stuff like that. The rainstorm at the end had looked like it was raining. It was on the visual effects stuff, which is really, really cool. The whole sequence at the end, Marty doesn't lose the DeLorean does not lose power. Nothing really extended badly happens to Marty. The sequence where Doc has to reattach the wires, you can't have him sliding down on the stage. They just have him fix it up at the top and then get in before then get out before the lightning hit. Or you could intimate that he did slide down, but they didn't show it because they cut back to Marty driving and going into the future. Oh yeah, and then that was difference also. Instead of going to going back to Twin Pines Mall, Marty stayed at the town square where he returned, and Doc was the one that found him. And then he was surprised that Doc was still alive because they did do the whole thing about him writing a letter to him and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that was different, and there was a lot of stuff that they kept from the movie, and it was what you could do to make a musical Back to the Future. If you had to, you made a musical Back to the Future, this is the way to do it. It was entertaining. The characters were fun. As I said, the main cast was outstanding. The songs were, as I said, they were fun, but they weren't like Defying Gravity memorable. There's like I don't really have a favorite song from it, and just it was in general it was a pretty good, decent song. And as I said, just good editing, good lighting. They added something also at the end, which is actually kind of funny. So for Marty to get discovered as a musician, Jennifer's uncle is Uncle Huey Lewis, and who runs a music business or whatever, and he was coming to see Marty play to maybe sign him because Jennifer asked him to. So that was an added thing they added in. They did play Power of Love and Back in Time at the very end of the movie. Those were the only original songs. And then they played Johnny Be Good. And I think they played Earth Angel during the sequence where Lorraine and George kiss for the first time. I don't remember. But it was kind of interesting. It was interesting how they made the picture disappear. And just in general, kind of just an interesting sort of scenario. So I have to give credit. It was great. It was a fun show, 2 hours and 40 minutes. Unfortunately, it only has one more day left. The night show probably just let out. Well, actually, it's let out for a while. It's a 2 hour and 40-minute show. So it probably started at 8. So it was over probably an hour ago. So people are probably just still either trying to get out or finally reaching home or whatever an hour after the show. So the cast has, I think, 2 more shows. They got a Sunday matinee, I think, then a Sunday night show, and then they're done here in Baltimore. They're going to move on to the next show. So, yeah, one more day, and you're probably not going to see this by tomorrow. So it was here for about a couple weeks. So if you wanted to go see it, you probably would have heard about it and just decided not to. But it was worth it. It was good. I enjoyed it immensely. Anniversaries. Dune Part 2 came out 2 years ago this week. The final episode of MASH debuted 43 years ago this week. Deaths. Devonta Lee, a 27-year-old wide receiver for the Washington Commanders, passed away due to bone cancer. Dennis Carvalho, a voice actor, passed away this week. The 2 biggest deaths this week, Robert Carradine, who played the main nerd, I think Gilbert, or Lewis. No, it was Lewis on Revenge of the Nerds. He passed away, but let's just take a look at some of the other stuff he did, because that's the only thing that a lot of people remember him from. But apparently, he was also in Hannah Montana, also. Or, I'm sorry, Lizzie McGuire, excuse me. So let's see what he did here. Film. He was in Mean Streets. Okay, that's interesting. Orca. He was in Orca. He was in Coming Home. In The Big Red One, which is interesting. Was in Revenge of the Nerds, as I said, played Lewis. Yep. Revenge of the Nerds 2. Revenge of the Nerds 3. Was in The Player as Robert Carradine. Okay. Was in the Tommy Knockers. Okay. I don't remember that. Revenge of the Nerds 4. He was in Escape from L.A. Okay. He was in Ghosts of Mars. Max Keeble's Big Move. The Lizzie McGuire movie. He was part of Lizzie McGuire. And just a bunch of he was in Django Unchained. Okay. It was just a bunch of other just really not that many real interesting stuff here. And television, typical stuff you see all the time. Twilight Zone episode, Fairy Tale Theater. He was Aladdin in Fairy Tale Theater. He was in Conspiracy to Trial the Chicago 8. Was in ER. Okay. Was in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Kung Fu, The Legend Continues. He was in that. That's with his brother, I think, or cousins or something like that. Nash Bridges, The Practice, NYPD Blue, The Pretender. And then Lizzie McGuire, he played Lizzie's dad, was 65 episodes of that. Law and Order, Criminal Intent, Robot Chicken. Series regular for King of the Nerds, which I guess was a kind of a game. He was in Sharktopus versus Terracuda. Okay. Probably remember that. So, yeah. So he did a lot of little minor stuff, but he did do some stuff. So there was that. And then Neil Sedaka also passed away this week, a musician. I don't know. His name sounds familiar, but I don't know some of the stuff that he wrote. Let's see. There's a lot about Neil Sedaka. Jesus. More than Robert Carradine. I guess being a musician, you have a little bit more of a career because you can do a lot more. Discography. There we go. Oh, let's just actually check his number one hits. Breaking Up Is Hard to Do is the main one. I thought he did more than that. There was some other stuff he probably did. I think he did some work for like Gundam and stuff like that. He did an album called Brighton Beach Memories. Neil Sedaka sings Yiddish. That's awesome. So yeah, I don't know really much about him, but yeah, so Breaking Up Is Hard to Do is the main one. I thought he did a lot more. I thought he was a bit more famous than that, but there we go. They're the ones that passed away this week. Grady Hendrix's Horror Store is set to get a film adaptation. Bath and Body Works is going all in on Peeps stuff. They're doing Peeps body wash, hand soap, fragrance mist, backpacks, towels, all kinds of stuff. So that's available here really soon. And if you're also a fan, there's also a Peeps sleeping bag that I think is available like at Walmart and shit like that now. Gail Daughtry and the Celebrity Sex Pass was picked up by Sony Classics, so that'll be released. That was a movie that hit Sundance. They got a good buzz on it. They actually didn't release it to everybody, but people were filming it at movie theaters. The Scary Movie 6 trailer said to come out June 12th. Is that right? Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same day as the Spielberg movie. But yeah, so to come out June 12th, and the Wayans are all back on that. Now, the original Scary Movie 2, was a lot more sex jokes and stuff that really was kind of not insulting, but just kind of a bit more of a dirty, more sexual joke sort of thing. And then they went in 3, 4, and 5. They made those be more like Airplane and stuff like that. And I like those a lot as well. And so now they're coming back, and the trailer just shows just the stuff that made me just kind of like Scary Movie was okay, but it was just a lot of sexual stuff, and they're just doing the same thing, and drug stuff, and they're doing the same thing again here. So not for me. I'll be watching the Spielberg movie that day. This is just one of the coolest names ever. It's an actor. His name is Marshall T. Batchaman. And Marshall is spelled Martial and not Marshall. So Marshall T. Batchaman has been cast as Brooke in the One Piece live action season 2, which debuts March 10th. Ryan Coogler has made $2.4 billion across 5 films. It's grossed $2.4 billion across 5 films. Quentin Tarantino has grossed $1.9 billion across 9 films. So, gee, I wonder who is the bigger draw. Dunkin' is selling a 48-ounce drink bucket. So if you want to get your caffeine in massive amounts, there you go. Power Ballad posters, the Jonas, I forget which Jonas brother it is, and the Paul Rudd movie coming out in June. They got our first posters for that. Mark Rylance and Shira Haas are set to join in Tahi Nightingale. That's how it's spelled out. So the Nightingale is T with an apostrophe H-E Nightingale. So Tahi Nightingale, not the Nightingale, which is weird, but okay. In a Violent Nature was a great slasher film from the POV of the killer. And it did well enough that a sequel is forthcoming, and we got our first look at it. It's going to take place at a summer camp, so Friday 13th vibes there. So we'll see what happens there. We got our first look at Gen 10 of Pokemon Winds and Waves, set to debut in 2027. We get the 3 new starters and some of the Pokemon are going to be there, some of the playthrough. I looked at it's set to come out, said 2027. It will be available only on the Switch 2. So we will have to upgrade to a Switch 2 if we want to play it. We will not be able to play it on our Switch anymore, which sucks. Ashley Tisdale is set to star in You're Only Young Twice, a CBS pilot. Interview with the Vampire Season 3 trailer debuted this week, and it looks like they're just going to continue on with the Lestat story. They'll have it on the name of Interview with the Vampire because that was what the first one was about, but this is looks like they're adapting the Vampire Lestat, which is where Lestat becomes a rock and roll star. So we got our first trailer for that. People have been getting back into record albums and vinyl again. Right now, Gen Z is now starting to get back into DVDs and physical media now, due to, I guess, them not wanting to have to pay for streaming, or that the streaming can just take the movie off whenever they want to. If there's a movie they want to watch and it's not on any streaming sources, they won't be able to watch it unless they have the physical film. So DVDs are starting to make a comeback, which is great because I have a ton I could probably sell, so maybe I should jump in there now. I mentioned this movie a while back, but they filled up the cast a little bit. CBS's new comedy Regency, which is a typical family sitcom, but this time the twist is it's set in 19th century England, has cast Rhys Darby, Mia Chalice, and Haley Griffith are the first cast members of that, so we'll see more about that too. Bird migration has increased overnight and over the world, which is a sign that spring is arriving. Nerdy Nuts and are teaming up with Little Debbie's for these 3 little like dessert cup things. One's oatmeal cream pie, one is nutty buddy, and one is honey bun. So Marky Devo, who's a guy I follow on Facebook who does food stuff, actually had all 4 of them, and you pop the top on them. get a spoon and you just dig it out like it's pudding, but it tells you what's on the outside of it. Like the oatmeal has marshmallow and oatmeal pieces and stuff like that. The Nutty Buddy has chocolate syrup and Nutty Buddy pieces and waffle cones in it. And the honey bun has different things as well that makes it taste like the treats you get from Little Debbie, but it's from a scoop and you scoop it up. And the guy says it's dangerous because, you can probably eat a whole container of it because it's so tasty and it's so sweet and so good. Los Angeles's Metro has sold out of their merch. They created this thing, and you can imagine why when I tell you why it's selling out. They had created merch that had on it Ride the D, which is the D line, obviously, but you can make the inference that Ride the D, since we're after midnight now, it's officially March, we get into this, means people are buying because they are making it intimating that it says riding dick. So that's why it's sold out really quickly. Isabel Merced is said to voice Carmel in the Speedy Gonzalez film, which I'm assuming is going to be animated, and that's why Isabel Merced is in talks to be in that. A game show based on Monopoly is coming soon from the same people who did the show The Traders, which is a big hit now on whatever network that's on right now. So they're going to be doing the Monopoly board game. This is an interesting film. Dakota Johnson, Saoirse Ronan, Jesse Buckley, and Josh O'Connor are set to star in Three Incestuous Sisters, based on a novel. So about three sisters that are in incestuous relationship with each other, and one of them starts getting jealous when one of her sisters starts dating a guy, apparently probably Josh O'Connor. So you shouldn't see that. It's based on a novel though, so it's good. Danny McBride and Max Landis are both writing G.I. Joe spec scripts, so we'll be getting a G.I. Joe movie here soon. Now, G.I. Joe is owned by Paramount, so I can only assume that it's going to become a right-wing Nazi-esque fascist rule. The convict in charge is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Not a pedophile at all sort of movies. So we'll see. Henry Cavill, who is a huge Warhammer 40,000 fan, is running the 40,000 Warhammer 40,000 TV show set with a firm hand, saying that they have to make a very accurate film TV series based on it. He's got a codex that they have to read, that he wrote, that details you need to do all this stuff and use this stuff for everything. So apparently, according to everybody, he's running it like with an iron fist to make sure that 40,000 Warhammer 40,000 gets the respect it deserves. March 3rd, which happens to be my wife's birthday, is also going to be the total lunar eclipse that will be visible from everybody in the world. Here on the East Coast, it'll be available from 6 to 7 a.m. We're not turning the clocks back until next week, so it'll still be kind of dark at that time. So we should be able to see the full totality when it's in that deep, dark copper red color. When I'm going to work, I should be able to see that because the sun will be coming up, but the moon should still be out and we still should be able to see it. So that'll be interesting a day if you live further out in the Pacific Ocean, the Western time zone, Pacific time. It's 3-hour difference. So we're looking at 6, 5, 4, 3 a.m. will be totality out there. So starting at 3 a.m. on the Pacific savings time, or the Pacific Standard Time, I guess, and ending at 7 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time, you get that window of that time. So like 3 to 4 in the Pacific time zone, 4 to 5 in the Mountain, 5 to 6 in the Central, and 6 to 7. That's when totality is going to be. Andrew Scott, Cherian Hines, and Tom Cullen are said to join Emily Blunt in the new film Walk the Blue Fields. Detective Hole trailer has been released based on a series of books set to come out March 26th on Netflix. And AMC theaters are going to start saving the best seats in their movie theaters for their Stubs members. Why not get a little extra incentive to join Stubs? So there you go. Deaths. Dan Simmons, a writer, prolific writer who wrote Hyperion and the Terrors, died at the age of 77. Tatjana Wood, a DC Comics colorist, died at the age of 99. Gigi Santiago, the creator of Rainbow Bright, died at the age of 82. Bobby J. Brown, a Wire local actor, was in The Wire, died at the age of 62. And anniversary this week, Pokemon debuted 30 years ago this week. So the first ever Pokemon anything debuted 30 years ago this week. That's why they released the Gen 10 information on that same day. That was the 30th anniversary. The Comeback Season 3 trailer with Lisa Kudrow has arrived. It's set to come out March 22nd on HBO Max. Fright Night 2 and Nightbreed are set to get 4K later this year. So that's good. A 3-hour cut of Gremlins was discovered by director Joe Dante, who's cleaning it up to possibly release it. It includes alternate storylines that were dropped, behind the scenes stuff, alternate takes, different views. So we'll see how he actually works it into a potential 3-hour version of the film. Nanny Squatters miniseries has been greenlit by Apple Plus with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Cicely Strong in the lead roles. The Rockford Files, I think I talked about this last week, but just to remind you, has added David Boreanaz as the main character in the Rockford Files in the reboot. They've also added Michaela McMahon, who will be the love interest, I'm assuming. Animal Control gets a 5th season. Running Point Season 2 hits Netflix April 23rd. That's the Kate Hudson basketball series. Chris Pine and Emma Stone are set to star in a rom-com called The Catch. It'd be nice to see Emma Stone in a rom-com again, and Chris Pine is always welcome. A 3.0 magnitude earthquake had hit North Carolina this week. Jonathan Groff, this is pretty cool, is set to portray Rosalind in the all-male version of As You Like It at the Royal Shakespeare Theater this fall. You know, you got to remember back in the old days when Shakespeare was writing his plays, no females were allowed on stage. That's the whole point of Shakespeare in Love. So no females were allowed on stage. So female roles had to be played by men, which is why you got a lot of these mistaken identity comedies with women pretending to be men and stuff like that, because they were in real life men. But then, you know, women eventually were allowed to get on stage, so they started casting women in the female roles, and you sort of lost the old style Shakespearean thing. I think this is a really cool idea, bringing in an all-male cast for As You Like It, and getting a pretty biggish Broadway star in Jonathan Groff to play the lead female role in the all-male version of the show. I think that's a really good idea. So that comes out in the fall at the Royal Shakespeare Theater. I think that's in DC, and I think it's the one I'm thinking of. That was the one I actually acted on my senior year of high school. Viking sheep with 4 horns are making a comeback from extinction in Britain. Good for that. The Yeti is a new film with Jim Cummings. That'll be coming soon. Ryan Coogler's X-Files reboot has gotten an okay from Hulu, and he has cast Danielle Deadwyler in the lead female role of the X-Files. New trailer for The Madison, Taylor Sheridan's new show. I don't know if it's a Yellowstone spinoff or not, but it's set to star Kurt Russell and Michelle Pfeiffer, and it's your typical sort of Taylor Sheridan sort of show. Emma Roberts is set to star in Bride Wars series for Peacock, based on the Kate Hudson Anne Hathaway film from 2009. The The Dollars trilogy, the spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood, is set to get a 4K box set later this year. Here's some really good books coming out at the tail end of this year. An oral history of the Boy Meets World is coming out. An oral history of the making of Batman the Animated Series is coming out. And we're also getting Kyle MacLachlan's memoir, where he wrote a memoir. It's due out in October. I'm dying to read that, so that'll be really cool to see that. The Burrows, which is the Duffer Brothers new show, is supposed to debut on Netflix on May 21st. I told you the cast a couple weeks ago, a bunch of older actors like Bill Pullman, Gina Davis, stuff like that. Some really good casting in that one. A Pet Cemetery could get what did I write? Could get plowed to make room for a gas station, which is awful that they're doing that. And an LAPD police officer was charged with fraud when he was accused of skydiving while on disability. Anniversaries: Falling Down debuted 33 years ago this week. Robert Duvall passed away last week, was in that movie. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 debuted 39 years ago this week. House debuted 40 years ago this week. That was the horror film, not the Doctor TV show. And Frantic debuted 38 years ago. That was Roman Polanski with Harrison Ford. A lot of deaths on this page. First up, this one kind of hits a little bit hard. Rob Grant, the co-creator of Red Dwarf, passed away this week. Guy Gilbert, Sonny Gibbs Jr., a former NFL player, passed away this week. Ian Scotty Morrison, who was a hockey ref, he passed away this week. Lauren Chopin, Daddy Knows Best actress, when she was a young girl, died at the age of 80. Bruce Neal Fromian, a Major League Baseball umpire, died this week. Jeff Galloway, a famed distance runner, passed away this week. Eric Peters, a famous voiceover actor, passed away this week. Oliver Power Grant, I guess. It was Oliver Power Grant, the Wu-Tang Clan executive producer, and ran WuWare. He passed away this week as well. Sorry, my eyes are getting tired here. Plus, my handwriting sucks ass. All done. Capybara Simulator is a video game where instead of you having to do quests and stuff like that, you just chill out like a capybara, going around different spots and just doing chill stuff. So it's a vibe thing. Remarkably Bright Creatures, we got our first look at that. It's set to debut May 8th on Netflix. Stars Sally Field and Lewis Pullman, about a man who has connection with an octopus that they found. I think it's based on a true story. Here's a pretty decent cast: Paul Rudd, Evan Peters, Amy Ryan, Paul Giamatti, John Turturro, Tatiana Maslany, and Jason Clarke are all set to join the untitled Tom McCarthy film. So we'll hear more about that soon. In local news, Howard County, which is, I don't know, a county around here somewhere, is forming a film task force to attract movie productions to our state. Baltimore used to have a thriving movie industry, TV industry like that, and it's just slowly gone away. I don't remember the last time a film was made in Baltimore. We've had a couple of shows more recently. A couple years ago when I auditioned for The Lady in the Lake, that was filmed in Baltimore. But there really hasn't been too much else lately, particularly movies. There really hasn't been a lot of movies filmed in our area in a while. So good on Howard County to do this. Maybe we'll get lucky on that. Matt Dillon, who hasn't been seen for a while, is set to star in an MGM Plus, which is another streaming service I didn't know about, series based on the Magnificent Seven. Tim Kring, who did Heroes, I think, is the showrunner on that one. Molly Ringwald and June Squibb are set to join the cast of Yellow Jackets for this final season. Jake Johnson is been now cast to head the new Private Eye show from the creators of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Mortal Kombat 2, the IMAX trailer debuted this week, set to come out May 8th. The Lance Armstrong biopic starring Austin Butler has been picked up by Apple TV Plus. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma trailer, which is a bizarre-ass trailer, stars Gillian Anderson, is a really messed up film. It was released this week. Here's another messed up film, but it's a little bit more of a typical sort of film. Pretty Lethal, which looks like a John Wick sort of thing. Basically has Uma Thurman playing a bad guy. She kidnaps a bunch of ballerinas for some reason, don't really know anything. So the ballerinas have to use their ballerina abilities to fight back to escape their kidnappers, so nobody's coming to save them. It's in a brutal sort of John Wick sort of style. And I know they did something like that with Ballerina, which came out last year with Anna de Armas. So it's not quite the same thing, but this is a series about 4 or 5 ballerinas who were kidnapped and have to fight up against Uma Thurman and her army, I guess. Mason Gooding is set to join Heart Eyes 2, a surprise horror film that debuted last year, I think, did very well around Valentine's Day. The Washington Commanders and Jacksonville Jaguars are 2 of the 3 home teams for the London games that the NFL is doing. We still haven't got the third one yet. The first 2 episodes of One Piece Season 2, as I said, set to debut March 10th, will be released in movie theaters, much how the last episode of Stranger Things was. I don't think it's going to have as big of a following, but still they wanted to try it and see what happens. The Tulsa King spinoff with Samuel L. Jackson, originally called Nola King, because it was supposed to take place in New Orleans, has now shifted its name to Frisco King, because they are no longer filming in New Orleans. They're filming in Frisco, Texas. Jared Harris is set to join Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence for this Martin Scorsese film, What Happens at Night. Ellen James joining the Yellowstone spinoff, Marshals. Ted Lasso Season 4 appears to finally have a window now. It appears that it will be debuting sometime in August of 2026. So that might be the period where I might have to end up subscribing to Apple Plus TV. I've been thinking about that this week because of this Ted Lasso news. I want to watch the Ted Lasso as it debuts weekly, but also Apple TV Plus is a great, because they have some really good movies that, as I said, don't have physical media, much like what Netflix does, but no one ever complains about Apple TV not doing that. I want to see Killers of the Flower Moon. I want to see The Gorge. Then they have really good TV shows like Severance and stuff like that. I'd like to watch some of those. So we might, and then Monarch, which is about set in the Godzilla verse, which my son would love. We want to get into that as well. So we might end up subscribing to that. So we'll see what happens. 2 sitcom royalties are joining forces. Tim Daly is said to join Téa Leoni in the new Newlyweds show, executive produced by Jamie Lee Curtis. So that's a really good cast to start with right off the top. Robin Hood Season 2 has been greenlit. That's the one that has Boromir. I forget the actor's name who dies in every film he does. He plays the Sheriff of Nottingham in that one. The Absolute Green Arrow is a serial killer. I think I talked about that in the 6-issue miniseries. Winona Ryder is joining the cast of Wednesday Season 3. It's reteaming with Tim Burton, so that's pretty cool. Ed Skrein has been cast as Balder in the God of War series. This winter has absolutely sucked ass, and climate change is causing a ruckus in our atmosphere. As told, a negative 82.3 degrees was measured in Greenland. That's probably colder than fucking Mars. Negative 82.3 degrees Fahrenheit was hit in Greenland this year. this week, actually. It is not the coldest temperature. I did not know that. The coldest temperature of all time, and I don't even know where it was in 1991, and it was negative 93.3 degrees, which is odd because I guess that was before climate change, but still it's kind of interesting. But yes, Greenland hit negative 82.3 degrees this week. Couldn't go by without a Florida man story. Florida man was arrested for attempting to use trained squirrels to steal lottery tickets. What the fuck? What the fuck? Messed up, dude. Anniversaries: Curse, the Kevin Williamson werewolf movie with Christina Ricci, debuted 21 years ago. It was directed by Wes Craven, also directed 21 years ago this week. Citizen X was one of the first HBO original movies to ever come out. Came out 31 years ago this week. It's about Russia's first serial killer. And Get Out debuted 9 years ago this week. A lot more deaths here also. Catherine Short, the eldest daughter of Martin Short, was found dead. I think she committed suicide. Coleman Barks, a poetry teacher and friend of REM, passed away this week. Satoshi Mori, an anime director, passed away this week as well. John Wheeler, a Star Trek utility player who played every role and did everything he could, passed away this week. Robert Cosby Jr., 23-year-old son of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City actress, died this week. Not really actress, person, I guess. Sandra Lee, the original Hello Dolly, who originated the role of Dolly in Hello Dolly on Broadway. She passed away at the age of 97. And that's it. All right, we're on our final page. Thank you, the between 2 and 4 people who've been popping in and out here periodically. Hockey team. Okay. That later. Wolverine video game is set to hit September 15th, 2026. Looks pretty good. Amy Lou Wood is set to star in a new TV series of Jane Eyre. Netflix has also released a trailer for their Pride and Prejudice series as well. Christian Bale and Leonardo DiCaprio will be starring in Heat 2. The Detroit Lions, will be playing in Munich, Germany this year. Author of a wholesome manga, I don't know the name of it, ended their story because they wanted to work on more adult material, which is not, too out of the ordinary. Actors and actresses do that all the time. So, Adam Pally has been cast in The Sanctuary. Don't know much about that. Tom Hanks is set to play Abraham Lincoln in a live-action stop-motion film based on the book called Lincoln and the Bardo. No, Pepper, don't step on anything. Lincoln and the Bardo. But I can't read my notes, buddy. You gotta move. Who is a good boy? It's my lap. I knew he was starring as Lincoln, but I when I was doing my research, I caught the stop action part of it. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. One of my favorite Miyazaki films, Hayao Miyazaki films, Kiki's Delivery Service, will be coming back out into IMAX in March, actually coming out March 13th in IMAX. I'll have to check and see if it's going to be coming to the AMC IMAX. That's the day my daughter's spring break starts. My tea boy. There you go, bud. I just looked there. So that'd be cool. Check that out. Doctor Who appears to be moving to HBO Max since this Disney experiment failed. Fortnite and Fallout, Fortnite and Pokemon, and Fortnite and Buffy the Vampire Slayer are all possibilities coming up here soon. Fist of the North Star manga will be making a comeback, which is really good. It's been a few years since the last one came out. Chris Sarandon, Noah Taylor, Oscar Morgan, and I can't read the other. I can't see, Pepper. You're in my way. I'll put it down here, bud. And I guess Pepper and Kenneth Morris, I guess, have joined the cast of Wednesday as well. Don't Ever Wonder ends production. Bonnie Blue, a porn star, announces pregnancy after screwing 400 men. Lily Collins is set to play Audrey Hepburn. That's Phil Collins' daughter, by the way. Set to play Audrey Hepburn in a film about the making of Breakfast at Tiffany's. Rafael Amaya is set to star and executive produce a bilingual series about drug kingpin Joaquin El Chapo Guzman from the point of view of El Chapo's wife. No, don't bite. You're going to bite me. No biting. You look like you're going to attack me. You're going to have to get down if you're going to do that. I talked about that. Dr. Pepper Johnsonville sausages will be coming out here soon. The newest burger from McDonald's, the Big Arch Burger, is set to debut on March 3rd. Let's go ahead and check that out. A high school student faces 300 charges for running a sextortion. That's what it is, sextortion scheme. I Am Frank Elda, a Spanish stop-motion film, is set to be coming to Netflix thanks to Guillermo del Toro. The snowstorm that I was talking about last week that was supposed to be potentially a big snowstorm dropped only about 4 inches of snow on us, dropped about an inch down at my work, but it scared everybody enough that they closed schools. They shut down my daughter's college for the day. And most of the snow was already gone by the end of the day. The biggest part of it, the blizzard stuff, we didn't even get a lot of the heavy winds. The blizzard aspect of it hit the, Philadelphia, Eastern Shore, New York City area. So again, the weathermen were kind of off as usual. So you never know with that. All right. So, okay. This is a last story. I got a bunch of last stories here. Here we go. So everybody knows about the Shamrock Shake at McDonald's, and that should be coming out here really soon as well because St. Patrick's Day is coming up on March 17th, 16 days from now. Sonic is doing the Sour Shamrock Slush, which sounds freaking awesome. And the fact that we have a Sonic right near where my work is, I might have to get it. Set to come out on the 2nd, Monday. It is green apple slush, which is better than the Shamrock Shakes. It's a green apple slush with whipped topping that's covered in popping candy. There's a tart rainbow candy strip in there as well. And the rest of the slushie is also filled with sour popping candies. Sounds freaking awesome, and I might have to go by Sonic and check that out. The Olympics ended last week. The men's hockey team and the women's hockey team both got gold. However, more proof of our of the pedophile in charge being a sexist, misogynist, racist piece of shit called up the men's hockey team and invited them to the White House and made a joke about having to invite the women, and all the male hockey players laughed at it like it was the funniest thing in the world. Kash Patel, the FBI, the guy who runs the FBI, was doing his inner frat boy while he was drinking beer and partying with them when he should be out dealing with the Epstein files and other stuff as well, because that's what the FBI is supposed to do and not fucking play around with high school and college hockey players. So the men who've been, working with the women, they laughed at the pedo's joke, and that was kind of insulting to the women's team because the women's continually get the shaft. And so luckily we had all the people come in and do their looks at it. The women's team, women's hockey, has only been around since like 94, and they've only been in the Olympics like 9 times, something like that. They've gotten no less than a silver. The men haven't had a gold in 40 plus years and haven't even medaled in a lot of the recent stuff as well. You chasing your tail? Are you a dog? Get that tail. Go get it. So then the men were invited to the White House, and then he's like, "Well, I guess we're going to the pedo said as made the jokes. I guess got to go with the women." They all laughed at that. They thought it was fucking hilarious. The women declined. The men ended up going to the White House. They met with the pedo in chief. He took one of their gold medals. Said, "I'm never giving this one back." He said he always wanted one. He made an AI video of him winning the Olympics for the hockey team. And then he didn't even have the dinner with them. And the dinner wasn't a White House dinner. He just bought McDonald's for them, cold fries and the ketchup packets that you have to open and spill out. He didn't even go all out. And apparently he has free McDonald's for life because of what he did during his time as a businessman. And then they got to go to the State of the Union. Yay. So with all that happening, people were feeling bad for the women. Well, you shouldn't have to. Stanley Tucci, who is a stand-up guy, one of the best actors out there, and also does shows about Italian food, stuff like that, invited the women's hockey team to a 5-star restaurant where he helped make a glorious Italian meal, fantastic, delicious, with wine and stuff like that, and with Stanley Tucci there. Flavor Flav, of all people, has said he wants to celebrate not only the women's hockey team, but all women's hockey medalists and the Paralympics medalists. So he's creating a Las Vegas experience for them that come out in July. And he's already got a ton of sponsors. They're going to have parties. They're going to have, bands. They're going to have good food. And they're going to have lots of giveaways. And there's even a GoFundMe to pay for other stuff as well to give them the experience of a lifetime. So the women get the better deal out of this, but it just goes to show you that sexism and misogyny, and these men should have known better. One of the men who plays for the Canadian Ottawa team was heard making a joke about closing the borders. So that didn't go over very well. And the hockey goodwill that they had been having just disappeared overnight. So now everybody's railing against hockey because it's apparently run by a bunch of right-wing fuckbags. So you can go suck my balls, you stupid pieces of shit. But the women lucked out. They did good, so good on that. Now, supposedly the men's hockey team is supposed to be on Saturday Night Live tonight. Saturday Night Live is over now. Actually, no, it's ended at 1 o'clock. So I don't know if they actually are or not. So they may or may not. Doesn't matter, though. In the end, the women are getting the better deal. So good on them. Before I get to the last 2 stories, anniversaries. Silent Hill video game debuted 27 years ago this week. Rumble in the Bronx, the Jackie Chan movie, debuted 30 years ago this week. Iwo Jima happened 81 years ago this week. Deaths. Maxie Shield, one of the stars of RuPaul's Drag Race, passed away at the age of 51. Kara Braxton, a WNBA player, she passed away at the age of 43. I think that's it. All right, so the 2 last stories we have for this week. Number 1, couple has sex in an MRI to see what happens to your body when you have sex. So basically, they had sex in the MRI. The MRI took pictures of them having sex. Then they could take a look and see what their insides looked like when they were having sex. Science. Crazy. Oh, that's the other. There's actually 3 stories. So we have that one. Kentucky man, not Florida man, Kentucky man, was taken into custody after dressing in fur and having sex with a dead deer carcass. Kentucky. And the final story of the week, we're looking at Australia. A koala bear, and this was not AI, this is not fake photos, this is real. A koala bear was photographed dragging a machete. Dragging it, wasn't holding it up and like that. He was just dragging it along. I don't know what more I can say. All right, that's it for this week. Next week, episode 649. This week we've got my wife's birthday, as I said. We turn our clocks ahead an hour next weekend, and we'll have more of this Iran bullshit and getting ready for the Oscars coming up soon. The final vote is taking place this week now. You have the nominees, now you have to re-vote on them, so hopefully we'll see what happens. On that note, I think I'm going to finish up here. Cats drive me crazy. And that's it. Thanks for the 4 or so people who were in and out all night. Thank you for watching. So it was more exciting. Sorry I didn't lose my shit more. I just didn't really feel like it. And on that note, I'm going to be out of here. Thanks, guys, for watching. Take care. Be safe. It's going to be a warm one this week here on the Eastern Seaboard, so enjoy it while you can.